to the Leo Training Podcast with Joe DeLeo. You'll hear in-depth interviews and tips from world-class athletes, coaches, and industry-leading experts to help you train smarter and improve at what you love to do. Train smarter, get stronger, move better, race faster. Here's your host, Joe DeLeo.
We're back with episode 32 of the Leo Training Podcast. This week's guest is my friend Louka Kurcer. Louka is a Strong First Level 2 kettlebell instructor, Strong First bodyweight instructor, functional movement systems instructor, and flexible steel instructor. In this episode, Louka and I sit down and discuss the differences between flexibility and mobility and why it's essential to include this into your strength training practice. Ideally, you want to strive for a perfect blend of flexibility and strength in your training. We will discuss how you can do that and what exercises and areas of the body you should focus on. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this brand new episode on the Leo Training Podcast. Louka Kurcer, welcome to the Leo Training Podcast. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come on to the show. I'm very excited to have you here, my friend. We have a lot of great material to cover this afternoon, and you'll have a lot of experience and wisdom to share with the strength and conditioning community. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's an honor to be here on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited. We've got some great topics in store. But before we get into the nuts and bolts, as I like to say, why don't you take a couple minutes, introduce yourself to the audience, let them know who you are, your background, how you got involved with coaching in the strength and conditioning field, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much. So I kind of came into the strength and conditioning world by accident. I don't know if you had a chance to read my story on the Strong First blog, but if you didn't, I was incarcerated for 7 years. Because I had made some mistakes in my earlier life when I was a teenager. And so, long story short, when I was there, I had a lot of time on my hands. And so we started training. I started training myself and with my friends, and there was like a little gym in the facility. So sometimes we'd go to the gym or the weight pit, or sometimes I didn't have access to that. So I'd train by myself in my room. So I do calisthenics. And so it became a passion of mine. And I started reading a whole lot of books on the topic of fitness and nutrition. And I wanted to learn everything I could. So I'd get all the magazines. I'd get Men's Fitness, Men's Health, Muscle and Fitness, Men's Journal. So I'd get every issue every month, and I'd read that stuff. And I'd read books on training. Like one of my first books was Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, right? I'm sure you've heard of it. Mm-hmm. And one day I was lucky enough to come across one of Pavel's books, Power to the People. And at first it didn't seem like a really attractive book. I mean, you got this hairy Russian guy, with his hands on his hips, and he's proud, right? And you got the Russian and American flag in the background as a power to the people. What the heck is this? So at first I kind of dismissed the book, but I went back and read it, and it completely changed my whole idea of training. And my mind was blown completely by this guy's knowledge and his level of depth and detail to training, because he was only talking about the press and the deadlift and how to use tension and breathing, and there was just a simple program to follow, right? So I got really into Pavel's teachings, and we started ordering all of his books and sharing them. I was sharing the books with my friends, and I didn't know that he was a kettlebell guy until a few of his books later on down the line, and I started getting the Hardstyle magazine issue. It was like a seasonal issue, and I learned about other people like John Engem, Doc Chang, Jeff Newport, and other people like that, and they just became my mentors. And before I was released, Actually, they got a couple pairs of kettlebells in the prison where I was, and we just started messing around. We'd bang up our forearms and hurt ourselves a little bit around with the kettlebells. And we thought we were cool, we're the only guys messing around with the kettlebells. Nobody else knew what to do with them. So I said, yeah, this is really cool, man. I wanna do this. I wanna become an RKC or whatever I need to be to become one of Pavel's students. And when I got released, when I got back home, first thing I did was to sign up for any course available in my area, which I had to travel to Toronto to do the HKC. And that's where I met my teacher, John Engem. And the rest is history from there. I just kept on learning, kept on taking every course available that was next down the line. Next was SFG1, and I prepared for that. And the next one he offered was SFB. I went to that. Then was flexible steel. I did that. Then I started assisting with him, and now I'm just traveling everywhere, assisting with John and the rest of the guys. So it's just been an amazing experience so far. And now I own my own facility. I have my own, I don't like to call it a gym. It's more like a school where people come to see me and they learn from me, and we practice rather than work out. So I also travel around Canada teaching flexible steel and other kettlebell workshops. I'll be doing a SFG user course in August. That'll be the first one in Montreal. So I'm proud of what's happening, of where things are going right now.
That's outstanding. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
Very cool. Very cool. So in regards to Power of the People, so how did that book change your perspective? Was it the detail in the text? Was it the simplicity? What had such a big impact on you?
It was all of the above. Everything in that book you cannot find in magazines. So it was something completely different than what you found in magazines. And he was actually challenging regular, like the thought, that people, the conventional training that you see in magazines, that rep to failure and high reps and bodybuilding, that type of training. But he was focused more on low rep, reps to 5 and lower, never train to failure. And he was talking about details that you could not find in magazines. Yes, they do talk about a little bit in magazines now, but back then, I'd say maybe 10 years ago, they really didn't go into that much depth on technique and what's happening with your entire body, the linkage, the breathing, the power breathing, all that stuff. They still don't talk about it in magazines. I mean, you gotta read the book.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah, his textbooks. I have a couple of Pavel's works, and there's no fluff. It's straight to the point.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to understand, break down the information, and implement the information.
He'll talk about some scientific terms, but then he'll break it down and make it very understandable for anyone to get.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about Pavel.
Absolutely. Awesome. So from there, let's kind of segue into some of the work that you're currently doing. So Strong First Level 2 Kettlebell Instructor, SFB, you're training for the SFL, also FMS instructor, and you Flexible Steel instructor specialist, so you go around teaching the curriculum for Flexible Steel.
Yes, sir.
With John Engem. So
yes, sir.
Let's talk about flexibility training. But before we talk about flexibility training, let's define mobility and flexibility and the differences between the two.
Sure. Well, a lot of people get those two confused, Joe. They kind of interchange the two terms. So when you're talking about mobility, you're talking about the joint's ability to move within a given range of motion, right? The ability for the joint to move smoothly. But when you're talking about flexibility, it's more about the muscle's ability to lengthen, contract, lengthen whatsoever, right? So keep in mind, when we're talking about mobility, we're talking about the joints, the articulation, and the flexibility part is more muscular. fairly straight to the point.
No, that's great. That's great.
Pretty simple to understand.
No, that's
Getting confused, they go together because the body's one piece, but there are differences.
excellent. Excellent. Okay, so now that we've kind of laid the groundwork and we defined those two terms, now let's talk a little bit more about flexibility training.
Yep.
Okay. Specifically flexible steel.
Yes.
What is it? One.
Sure.
Why is it important, and why should people be doing it?
Sure. Well, flexible steel is a flexibility and mobility program that doesn't sacrifice strength for flexibility and flexibility for strength. So in our world, you should have both. Both should be kind of a perfect balance in a way. Of course, nobody's going to be like that, but you want to strive for a balance of both. You want to be both flexible and strong. It doesn't matter if you can deadlift a ton of weight, but you're not able to move, not able to scratch your back or tie your shoes. That's not very functional. So you don't want to be, on the other hand, at the end of the spectrum, the person that can be a total yogi that could tie their feet or their legs behind their head, but can't do a push-up.
Right.
You don't want to be too flexible, or, I'm not saying you don't want to be too strong, but you want to have a combination of both. And that's really where health goes, right? That's where you want to be healthy. You do too much of one thing and there's a price to pay. So there's a balance, and you can have your pie and eat it too.
Absolutely. That's great. So kind of building on that, what are some of the approaches that the flexible steel instructor, if I was to attend a course, or an audience member was to attend a course, what are some of the things I would learn there?
Sure. So first, when we start off the certification, we talk about the 3 S's. You probably heard of them in the Strong First level 1. So the 3 S's are defined like this. First S is strength. So strength means that you want to be able to use your strength to basically push and pull yourself into different positions or stretches, right? Mm-hmm. So whenever you stretch, you want to use your strength as well. The other S stands for space. You want to be able to create space within your body. Think of not necessarily isolation, but more generally thinking, let's say you will stretch your spine or your back, right? Let's say we do a decompression. You want to be able to visualize space being created within each of your vertebrae. So actually creating traction within your spine. So those are just little tricks that we use within the course. The third S stands for spread, such as spread the load. So you don't want to, like I said, isolate a certain you don't want to isolate a given part of your body, but you want to spread the load throughout your entire body. So, for example, if I were to, let's say, put you in a straddle that you want to get the splits. So do you feel a pretty intense stretch in your groin area? So I tell you, Joe, spread the load throughout your entire body. Don't just necessarily focus on your legs, but try to spread it out throughout your body. Almost like strength training when you're talking about irradiation. It's sort of similar to that.
Okay. So focusing on and visualizing, instead of just like, for example, the adductors, those muscles that run along the inside of the thigh towards the groin, that if I was doing a straddle stretch working towards the splits, that would be, for most people, kind of the point where, they look like a deer in the headlights. They feel a very intense stretch right there. You're talking about visualizing and spreading that feeling throughout the entire body.
So we're trying to open up and relax the entire body, because when you're in a stretch like that, you don't want to be there. It's hard to relax, but you have to force yourself to relax and use these little techniques or these principles to enable you to relax further. So think of that spreading the load when you think of strength training, you're trying to spread the tension, right? But when you're trying to get in a stretch, you're trying to spread the relaxation.
Right.
So it kind of works both ways. You have to also generate relaxation throughout your entire body at the same time.
No, that's great. I like that because we focus a lot in Strong First with the lifts on creating a lot of tension throughout the body. We focus a lot on the big neural generators, the abs, grip, and the glutes. Pavel talks about, or in Strong First, we talk about using fast and loose, and I can see I'm connecting dots already in my mind about that idea of, don't just focus on all the time on creating a lot of tension. Equally take some time into your practice and focus on the other end of the spectrum, which is increasing relaxation.
Absolutely. That's so key. And we use a lot of breathing. Breathing is key. You want to breathe in a way that's going to enable you to relax further. So when you take a deep breath and you exhale, we use our voice. That will kind of like, right? You hear Pavel talk about it, and John, in their videos and seminars. It's really, really key.
So using the breath, or moving around the breath almost.
Yeah, it's a relaxation tactic. Almost like if you visualize you're drinking a really tall, cool glass of water on a really hot summer day, and it's just so refreshing and relaxing, and you're just like,
Right. Yeah, and I can see just when you demonstrated that, I can just see everything in your body, like just all the muscles, shoulders and chest just relax.
So that is you could try that later on. Try that with your students. Try that with yourself. When you're in a tight spot in a stretch or whatever, and you feel you're just stuck there, take a deep breath and just and relax.
Right.
You're gonna see it's gonna stretch out even further.
Excellent. So now let's talk about, now that we kind of laid some groundwork and provided context for what flexible steel is and flexibility training, let's talk a little bit more in depth about how flexibility training can enhance, body weight, kettlebell, and the barbell.
Absolutely. So Pavel said that strength without reach is weak. So what did he mean by that? He said, if you take a lifter, an athlete, and he definitely has the capability to get in the range of motion and has the strength, but that person is tight, they're not going to be as strong, or they're not going to be able to tap in to their full strength potential. You see what I mean? Because every person needs a flexibility reserve. So not only do you have to be flexible for your sport or whatever you're trying to accomplish, you have to have a reserve of flexibility. So you need to make sure that you're not just, stuck at that end range of motion, but you need more range of motion, that whatever you need to accomplish.
So is that important because we're not working up to the end ranges, so we have something in case, if I'm running, for example, and I might roll my ankle if I change my foot's going over varying terrain, perhaps. So that way, if I have that sort of reserve that you're talking about, if my ankle moves in a direction that would potentially cause an injury, I can absorb that.
Absolutely. And not only that, is that you want to strengthen those the end ranges. You want to not just have it, but you want to own it. So you can force yourself into a position, but not until you're comfortable and you're able to load it, then you own it.
Okay.
So that's important as well.
How do you know when to load it?
So you can load it right away. It just you'll see a student stretch, and you'll put them into a stretch, and it'll increase their range of motion. But I think they need to spend a little more time and frequency into that end range. But you can load them right away and see what happens. If their breathing changes a little bit, they may need to spend a little more time into it. But you could generally load them right away. So, for example, you take the goblet squat. We work a lot on hip mobility and flexibility of various muscles surrounding the hips and the legs. So right after, you'll test your goblet squat and see how deeper you can go. Such as, when you attend the SFG course, you'll do a bunch of drills, a few troubleshooting drills, and you'll load the goblet squat right away.
Excellent. Now, how about? So that was a great example for the kettlebell. How about for body weight? So say I'm working on the pistol.
Yes,
right?
I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, because that requires above average ankle and hip mobility.
Absolutely.
And it's impossible to avoid going into some spinal flexion. So we really want to emphasize having, again, the above average hip and ankle mobility.
Yep.
So what's in benefits and some approaches that we would take to using flexible steel methodology to improve that?
Absolutely. So definitely what you have to do first is you test your baseline. Once we take your baseline test on whatever movement, could be the pistol, could be a one-arm push-up, could be even a handstand push-up. Actually, as a matter of fact, we test the hanging leg raise as a strength test and flexibility test. Why? Because for two reasons. One, if you fail to reach the bar with your legs, you may have an issue with tightness in your hips. Number two, if you fail to hold on with your hands, it means that you have a grip issue. So it works both ways. I once had a guy that he did the flexible steel course, and then at the beginning he couldn't bring his legs up to the bar. He could bring them only parallel. At the end of the course, no problem. He could bring him up to the bar. He was touching the bar. He could never do that before. So it wasn't that he wasn't strong. It's just he was just really tight in certain areas of his lower body. So just a few tests. So going back to the pistol, take the baseline, and then we'd do a few drills. So for example, we'd probably move your ankles. We do some ankle mobility drills. Stretch your foot out. Then we go down the chain or up the chain. So we might do calf, we might do hamstring, quad, hip. And then after that, throughout, we try test and retest. Awesome. And see the improvement. So here's the thing is that we don't have just one tool for everything. We have many tools. So if one thing doesn't work, we still have a bunch of stuff to try out. And not one thing is going to work the same for everybody. You may have one drill, it's going to work miracles for a given person, and then you may have another drill, the same drill is going to be not as, it won't be as effective on another person. But then you give that other person something else and it works very well. So there's many tools.
Right. Yeah, and that's part of figuring out how to be a good instructor.
Part of figuring out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then, so you gave great examples for kettlebell and body weight there. Do you have any that come to mind for any of the barbell lifts?
Well, barbell is, it depends. I haven't taken the SFL yet. I really need to do that. But, you have specific stretches, I'm sure, that would help your bench press, for example, your squat, your deadlift, your military press. I would say, your arm bars work fantastic and your bent arm bars are excellent for your bench. And for the squat and the deadlift, you definitely need to spend some time on those hamstrings. After a few sets of deadlift, how it is. Your hamstrings, they tighten up so fast. So yeah, definitely. I mean, flexible steel works for any type of strength training you want to do. It's just really, it's a universal approach.
Excellent. Excellent. Is there anything else that you want to add on flexible steel before we kind of shift gears to next topic?
Absolutely. Well, it's just a wonderful course. I think every instructor should take it. It's just a great thing to have for assessing your students and be able to continuously work on their mobility and flexibility. It's good for anyone, especially if you have more the aging population. They really need it the most. I mean, I'm not saying we don't need it as younger guys, but we still do, especially nowadays that you're sitting down all the time. I mean, we're on our phones, we're texting, we're into flexion, so you need something to open up. And it's just a great system that works all of that, and that increases your strength as well.
Excellent. Is there anything, and we'll touch on this again later, but is there anything that comes in mind with some of your clients that you've worked with? You have some that are on the younger spectrum, 8 to 12 years old, and then some that are much older, around 70. So given those wide differences in age, do those two groups, so to speak, have different demands or different requirements in terms of what they need for flexibility?
Yeah, you know what, Joe? I would take it on a case by case basis. I have one little boy that has really tight hamstrings for some reason, and his little brother, he's just like a yogi. He's super flexible, so it's hard to tell. It just, you don't know what they do during the day, and you don't know what makes them like that. Maybe because they've stopped moving in a certain way and for a long time, and it just the muscles kind of, in a way, they kind of shorten and they tighten up. So me as a coach, my job is to enable them to move better. I just don't want just to have strength training. It's not just about getting strong. Yes, that's great, but you want to load them properly. You don't want them to have any bad habits or load a dysfunctional pattern. So, most people, I would say, first you got to work their mobility and flexibility. That's what they need the most. People want to train, they want to sweat, but hey, take it or leave it, right?
Yeah, you have to be able to move first.
You got to be able to move, and body weight stuff, like crawling, that type of thing. And kids love that stuff. I mean, even older folks, they're like, wow, I didn't know this was actually challenging. They think they gotta get on the weights right away, or they gotta start lifting. But no, you don't. You have to learn how to use your body in a proper way, right, and gain access to more mobility. That's so important.
Yes, that is, and I've definitely found for myself too that as I've increased my strength, my mobility and flexibility has also increased.
Fantastic.
But the cool thing is that I've noticed that I've been able to maintain them and had to do sort of less, warm up or prep work, before sessions, which is really speaking to, that's kind of like how you're really able to hold on to it, so to speak. Yeah.
Once you get there, you just have to do mostly maintenance work.
Yep.
And that could be, it depends on everyone. You could do it once a week or twice a week, or frequency is it's dependent on the person.
Exactly.
Specific to the person.
Awesome. So we're going to shift gears now. We're going to talk about Plan Strong.
Yes, sir.
So you just had a awesome trip.
That was so cool.
Yeah, I saw some pictures up on Facebook. So you were in correct me if I'm pronouncing, Vicenza?
Vicenza, yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Vicenza, Italy. For the Plan Strong, that was the international one. There's one later this summer in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
So for those in the audience that don't know, what is Plan Strong?
Sure.
And then why did you want to go? What did you learn? And how is it going to help you?
Fantastic. So this is actually my second time learning from Pavel directly with Plan Strong. I went last year, to Vicenza. And what Plan Strong is, it's a very faithful adaptation of the old Soviet weightlifting methodology. And this is probably one of the greatest systems that ever existed. Why is that? Because they used, as opposed to here in the West, we're used to progressive overload. When we're training for strength, you'll have a template, and we're used to, you'll have more of a linear progression. So as opposed to that, they use variability, and variability, it's sharp changes in load and volume, intensity and volume, wavy, a very wavy pattern, if so to speak. So if you look at a graph, you'll notice the difference is something a little more linear as opposed to something erratic and very fluctuating. Mm-hmm. And this, according to Soviet researchers and experts, worked very, very well to get the athletes extremely strong. And Pavel was talking about that their records, most of their records are still unbeaten to this day.
Wow, that's incredible.
Changed weight classes twice, I think, in the past decade, because they're saying that obviously they were on steroids back then, but hey, is it because they're not using any steroids anymore? That still hasn't changed. So they still, the records still, they speak for themselves.
Right. So taking that and adapting that methodology and simplifying it so that the instructors can implement that into their programming for their clients.
Yep. Plan Strong, the system, you have Plan Strong 70 and Plan Strong 50. What is the difference? Is that Plan Strong 70 takes lifts from 70% and up of your 1 rep max.
Okay.
You're able to calculate a program based on a given number of lifts that you choose to do for a cycle. So you have different cycles. You have like a preparatory cycle or preparatory phase, which is sort of accumulation. So you have accumulation, intensification. So they talk about more a preparation, preparatory, and then a competition. So it's for it could be for a competition such as weightlifting or even powerlifting, or if you just want to test your 1 rep max into any lift, such as a military press, a pistol, a pull-up.
Sure. That's great. That's wonderful. And
it's pretty interesting the way they have it planned is that they have these variants that they use for programming the volume. So you look at in the West, how do we usually train? We'll have a build-up over 3 weeks, and then the 4th week usually have a deload, correct?
Yep.
So that's how we usually operate. And it still works. It works wonderful. Except that the Soviets had many other ways to plan those, let's say, volume. So let's say, for example, you choose to do 200 lifts in the pistol squat in a month. And according to the West, you'd have a progression within each week. The volume would increase, and then on the 4th week, the volume would decrease. But then the Soviets had different variants for the volume to fluctuate, basically almost randomly. So there are specific numbers that you use. There's based on 100%, you have, they're almost like magic numbers. There's 15%, 22%, 28%, and 35%. If you add all those up, that adds up to 100%. So you take those numbers and you can change them around according to the volume that you want to do during the week. And there's a 20% difference between each week. And they found that to be like a magic number.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. And you have to have an average of about it really, it depends each lifter, but an average of your average weight will be about 75 to 80% depending on the lift. That is the range that you want to stay in for strength, because it's not it's like a middle weight. It's the best one of the best weights for strength, to increase your strength.
Right, in that 60 to 80%, right in there, right? Is that what you're saying?
60 to 80. If we can narrow it down, let's say 75 to 80. That is the bulk of your training is going to be spent doing those type of lifts with that type of weight. If you're going to have lower intensities, that's going to be more for warming up, hypertrophy, that type of thing, and you're going to have higher lifts for variability. So you want a mix of all those ranges. You have, for example, the Plan Strong 70 takes all the lifts between 70% and up. So you have, for example, 70 to 80%, 81 to 90%, and 91 to 100%.
Awesome.
So you have those ranges. And Plan Strong 50 takes everything back from 50% and up. So you're able to calculate the smaller weights as well. And that's important to do, but it takes a little more work.
Right. Okay. But I can see, depending on the person and their ability level, it'd be worthwhile to have that knowledge so that you can kind of safely progress them sort of up the ramp, so to speak.
Yeah.
Awesome. So kind of circling back. So how, how's that beneficial for, say, the two, client groups that you, that we mentioned earlier, the 8 to 12-year-olds and the 70-year-olds? How would you use some of the knowledge, the information from Plan Strong to help with the programming for them?
Well, I don't use Plan Strong with those type of folks.
Sure.
The Plan Strong, I would say, takes a lot of commitment for someone. It could be specific, it's more for people that are looking for measurable results. I mean, not necessarily that I can't plan it for those type of people, but kids or older folks, they probably need more like general physical preparation type of work. They don't need anything too specialized.
Right. GPP. Yep.
Yeah, GPP.
Okay. Awesome.
So I would use the Plan Strong more for somebody like could be an SFG that wants to get a half body weight press, or somebody that wants to train for beast tamer, or it could be somebody competing in powerlifting or even weightlifting to a certain extent.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it also could be for an athlete competing in a given sport, and then you'd have him peak for his event.
Right. So definitely somebody that's training for a competition for sure, or an
absolutely.
event. There's a quantifiable goal / result that they're looking to attain at a certain period in the year. Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to cover?
You know what? I'm just really happy that you called me. This is an awesome interview, and that I'm able to share what I want to talk about. And it's just been an awesome experience with Strong First and with flexible steel and traveling and stuff like that. And I just want to tell everyone that's listening, it's the journey of strength. It's for life. You're on this just to get better and to better yourself. And you're just constantly learning. I'm always learning from other instructors and from my peers and stuff like that. And we're students as well as instructors here, and we can't say that I'm better than you or anything like that. I'm just kind of humbled to be here and humbled to be in the position that I am.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you're doing fantastic stuff. I'm very happy to have you on. Okay, so on that note, we're going to move to the rapid fire.
Cool.
So the rapid fire. I know you've listened to some episodes. The rapid fire is series of questions. We're going to keep it, short and sweet. And it's kind of whatever hits the top of your mind, so to speak, when I prompt you with the question.
Cool.
So without further ado, let us get rolling with the first one. So, given your current knowledge level and experience at this point in your life, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself 10 years ago?
Oh my God, that is so hard to say.
It is.
That is so hard. I don't know.
This is actually probably the most difficult question I give people. They get way easier after this.
I think I know what I would tell myself. I would because I did a lot of experimentation in terms of training programs and dieting and just trying different things. And I tried the crash dieting and leaning out phase and more endurance work and stuff like that. And I would just tell myself, stay focused on strength, on the on what I learned with Pavel, because sometimes I just didn't I didn't listen to myself, and I did other things, and I messed up, and I had to start over again, and I had to learn my lesson, the same lesson over and over again. So I just say, stay focused on getting strong, and sometimes the road ahead looks far, but one set here, one set there, adding 5 pounds here, 5 pounds there, it adds up over the years. But if you push it, if you're always pushing yourself to the max, you're gonna end up burning out. And I did that a few times, and I had to start over again, and I had to start further behind. And I didn't think that I was making any progress. It was always something that I had to start over again. But now I'm steady with my strength. I'm able to maintain it and keep it and slowly build it up. And that's what it's about. It's about being patient with it, not just pushing it and going all out every time. And you have to have your rest day, your back off days, avoid injury at all costs. I just had a friend of mine recently. He got an injury on his knee, and I know people that hurt their shoulders and that kind of thing. And it sucks, because when you get injured, you can't train what you want to do.
Right.
You can't do anything. You have to work around. So you're losing training time. You're losing strength. And so if you're able to stay pain free or maintain a healthy lifestyle, you're able to train and slowly build your strength. Do that. Keep doing what you're doing.
Love it. All right. If you had to pick one, what's your favorite strength training exercise?
That is another hard question. Oh my God. One or two? Can I pick two?
Sure.
Okay. For sure, I'll pick the swing and the Turkish get up. I mean, those are bang for your buck exercise. You could get a nice training effect, with just those two movements. The Turkish get up is a slow lift. Works your entire body. Works your grip, works your shoulder stabilizers, works your abs, works your legs, works all kinds of things. Swing is a quick lift. It works a lot of stuff too. So those are just amazing movements, and they give you so much for what you have to put in. And I can't think of anything else with just a single tool that you can do. And with a kettlebell, you're able to carry it everywhere you go. Which you should, and you can do it anywhere.
Right.
That I like to say, carry your strength wherever you go. So carry your kettlebell wherever you go. It might be heavy, but after a while it's gonna be light, and then you gotta buy another one. But you could stay with a kettlebell with a given weight for a pretty long time and kind of milk it for a while.
Yep.
So the swing and the get up, the program minimum is just fantastic for, I would say, 99% of the population, and myself included.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites as well. It's great. Okay, how has your training changed today compared to 10 years ago?
Oh wow, it's changed a lot. That I, don't have as much time that I can dedicate to training. What am I saying? I still spend 3 hours in the gym, but it's more focused on the compound movements and more of a minimalist approach. Like I may do a strength training regimen for a given amount of time. I may just be doing three exercises. I'll do a push, a pull, and a squat, and that's all I'm going to focus for this next 6 weeks. That may be the only thing I'll do, plus my flexibility and mobility training on top of that. But I have a very narrow focus on my training nowadays, more than anything.
Okay. Um,
Which is how I like it, But
yeah,
someone else might like a little more variety. It just depends on your personality, right? Me, I prefer to be just to have a few things and simplify it.
that's great.
That way, I'm able to maintain or the variables are a lot more manageable.
Sure. Um, what injury have you had, and how did that injury change your training?
So I had a bad shoulder injury when I was incarcerated with. I had a training partner, and we used to do a program called EDT, Escalating Density Training by Charles Staley, which is a fantastic training method. I don't know if you ever heard of it before, but you should look it up. Anyone that's listening, you should look into it. As a matter of fact, Pavel and Charles did a strength seminar, and they were alternating programs, EDT and with Charles' program, and then Pavel with his 3 to 5 method. So we would alternate between EDT for, let's say, 4 weeks, and then we would do 3 to 5 for the next 4 weeks. And in EDT, the goal is to basically take 2 exercises, let's say a squat and a press, and you take your 10 rep max on those 2 exercises, and for a block of 15 minutes you would superset both, but you would do only half of the reps. You would do only 5 reps. If you can't do 5 reps, you do 4. If you can't do 4, you do 3, so on and so forth. So we'd superset both those movements. And I was doing like push presses, I think, with 55 pounds. And I had a training partner that was ultra competitive, and I still remember it to this day. And we had fun and we'd enjoy ourselves, but we'd go hard in the gym. We'd kill ourselves.
Right.
I'm sad to say, but that's what I used to do. So we'd push ourselves a lot, and it was always like an upmanship. Like I wanted to kind of get more than he did, and we'd kind of be like, I got more than you did, so on and so forth. So I was using these 55 pounds, doing these 55 pounds dumbbells, like push presses. I'd be going so fast, and I did just too much volume, and I just felt it, and I just kept on going and going, and I just, added more to the injury, and it just became worse. And the next training, I felt it the same day, and I kept on pushing it the next training, and I didn't apply any common sense. And then it just I had to stop, and then I had to lay off my shoulder for a while, and I just did squats, and I did lower body for a while. I couldn't really do anything upper body besides maybe shrugs and curls and stuff like that. But I learned the hard way. It took me like a few months to rehab myself slowly, and I still feel it to this day. It's never been the same, and it'll never really be the same. I always have one side that is not as strong. Everybody does, but you know it when you train, and it's a little sensitive. If I push it too much to rep max or something like that, like I'll definitely feel it a little bit. So I got to be careful. So if you have those little dings and these little issues with your body, you just got to pay a little more attention and be extra careful in the gym and what you do. So you just got to be mindful. That's all.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. What's one thing that high school athletes or junior athletes should be doing more of to complement their training and their health?
That's a good question, Joe. I don't train a lot with high school athletes, but I will tell you that everybody needs, I'd say, to train their flexibility and their mobility a little more. Spend more time on that. Spend more time on recovery and body maintenance, because you can train a lot, but do you spend time recovering or applying different methods to recover or heal or adapt to what you've done? People don't realize it, but the more they train, the more they need to counter that training by either stretching or foam rolling or doing mobility or taking a walk outside just to relax, or things to relax their bodies, getting a massage or taking a hot bath or going to the spa or stuff like that. People need to do more of those recovery modalities, as they keep on pushing and pushing a lot. Right. But sooner or later, that's going to catch up to you. We gotta think ahead. We gotta think like 50 years ahead here. What I still want to be doing the same thing in 50 years. So I gotta kind of take my time here and be patient and not push so hard.
Yes, absolutely.
Pushing hard is important. Some days,
right?
That's important. When you have a competition, by any means, go all out. Destroy it. But when we train, it's a different thing. It's building. When we're training, we're building. But when we're at a competition and when we're testing, it's more of a demonstration, which is a totally different thing. There's two different worlds there. It's building strength and testing your strength. People don't realize that. They go to the gym, they try to test themselves every time.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes, like, building strength versus testing strength. And
yeah, sure.
It's so easy to get caught up in seeing if you're making progress, and you want to, do a weekly check-in, and so to speak. Yeah. And when I was younger, I used to do that in regards to rowing. You would you would do that. You would, on your own, you would do stuff. And a lot of times I look back, you're kind of teaching yourself how to fail if you don't get the result that you're seeking.
Look, if you seek your limit, you're going to find it. And it's because you can do 20 reps on a deadlift with a given weight doesn't mean you should.
Right. Excellent. What's your best tip to improve recovery post-training session?
Just spend 10 minutes with an easy stretching session, just to relax your body, relax your mind. And you don't ever want to rush your stretching. If you have to rush, just skip it. If you're short on time, don't worry about it. Just do it later on in the evening. Right. But it's really important because people take the tension outside of the gym, and they carry it around. Like, you see it in their shoulders, you see how they breathe, and they keep the tension with them. But you have to counter that by any means. Spend some time, stretching your shoulders, stretching your the various muscles in the hips and your upper body, lower body. It's super important. Like a few of my favorites are the armbar, the kettlebell armbar. I do that daily, and the tactical frog.
Yeah, I love that one.
Fantastic movements, and it just opens you up.
For sure. For sure. Okay, what's your favorite meal?
Hamburger with sweet potato fries.
Nice.
And followed by gelato ice cream.
Nice. Chocolate?
Chocolate and pistachio. So both.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. Okay, final question. Yeah. What's one book everyone should read?
I would say Awaken the Giant by Tony Robbins. Okay. It's an awesome book. It's just such a inspiring book. I read it twice, when I was on my incarceration days. It's just such a great book. It's it teaches you to be your own, let's say, how should I say, driver of your own car.
Right.
You want somebody else to drive your own, you want to be leading your own destiny type of thing. You want to be true to yourself. You want to be authentic. And that's what Tony teaches. He's just fantastic. Just a great book. Everything by Tony Robbins, anyway, is just very inspirational.
For sure. Yeah, he's great. Well, that's it, man. That wraps up the episodes. That was the final question. So
thank you so much, Joel. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your experiences and knowledge and everything, the strength and conditioning and Strong First community. So hang on the line. Let me give you a proper goodbye, and we'll wrap this one up.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Take care.
I hope you enjoyed this brand new episode on the Leo Training Podcast. If you would take a moment out of your time, head on over to iTunes and write a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate it. Or take a moment and share it on your favorite social media networks such as Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Be sure to tune in next week when I interview another Strong First instructor, Strong First team leader, Martine Kerr.
Thanks for listening to the Leo Training Podcast. Subscribe and get even more expert training tips at www.leotraining.io.